or 748. Folks, join us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Make it plain, if you would. God bless you. Good morning. Get woke. Get ready for impeachment. Joining us, joining us in studio as we promote it, so you can see our brother in the flesh. He is running for governor of Florida. I tell you, I don't know what y'all gonna do with me if we get a black governor in Georgia and a black governor in Florida.
You can relocate.
I don't know what y'all gonna do with me.
You can relocate.
I heard that.
Come on down.
Now, this first brother running for office has invited me to relocate to the place where he's going to win.
I'm just saying, join your fellow New Yorkers. They have chosen Florida, man.
I was there last weekend.
Okay.
Well, first of all, we just talking. Let me introduce our brother. He is Brother Andrew Gillum. He is running for governor of Florida, mayor of Tallahassee.
That's right.
He's a rattler, y'all. We're going to get into that in a minute. But I spoke at the Orange County NAACP Freedom Fund banquet this past Saturday.
Okay.
And Val Demings was there, and
yeah.
Aramis Ayala, and a few other folk, and we had a good time. And then you all heard a few weeks ago, we had our brother Quentin James on talking about the collective PAC, and we support all the candidates in the collective PAC anyway. And I was saying we got to get Andrew here. And when I heard you in New York, I said, no, this got to happen.
Thank you very much for making that happen. I'm a big fan of the collective PAC. Stephanie and Quentin are a dynamic team with a young family, so I know what that feels like.
Yeah. I don't know how they do it, boy.
I'm telling you, man, it's real. I've got 3 little ones myself, so we commiserate when we're together.
Yeah.
The challenge of that, but I'll tell you, the existence of that PAC has really created the opportunity for legitimate candidates of color to be taken seriously, because our biggest barrier is not that we're not qualified, not ready, not prepared, don't have ideas, aren't inspiring in their own right. It is that oftentimes the system and the institution is set up such that we don't get access to the kind of resources we need in order to run competitive races.
That's absolutely.
So they're helping to close that divide.
Well, and not only that, quite frankly, when we get some of our own in office, we're held accountable to where the donations come from.
Yeah.
And members of the Black Caucus have said that to me over the years. They said, well, Mark, there's certain things we want to do, but we're not able to raise as much money from our own community. So that's beginning to change.
Yeah. Well,
so when you get in office, you can govern and know that well of money is coming from the actual constituents that elected you.
That elected you and that support you. In fact, I've been in churches now of recent where pastors are literally talking to their congregants about what it means to be political tithers. Which is,
I like that.
I like it too.
That.
It's a good framing. It's like, look, we demand a lot of the system. We ask a lot of the system.
Yeah.
But we got to know that power doesn't yield that easy. There's some things we've got to do too. And so they're helping to put regular people, in the pipeline to giving politically. It doesn't have to be the largest sums, but the collection of that, the collective of that can have really big impact.
Well, Obama proved, small dollar donations make all the difference in the world anyway.
Yeah, and large scale.
Right, they do. That's working well for you.
It is working well for us. Obviously, you always want to recruit more. My mother is my example. She is on $20.18 auto deduct a month. Given to the campaign, because she's not somebody who can stroke a $3,000 check, but she's sowing a seed into the race. We're trying to help people recognize that that's something they can do.
Auto deduct $20.18. Y'all should think about that.
Yes.
We mentioned the Rattlers. He's a FAMU graduate.
That's right.
He was ashamed of me. He was student body president at the same time. Stephanie Brown James was president at Howard. I was saying to him, I grew up in Nashville, so we used to love to go watch Tennessee State play FAMU because we had band, man. Good God. And
100.
They were amazing, and I know they still are.
Yeah.
But a lot of respect for FAMU, and we're very close with Fred Humphreys when he was president of Tennessee State and went on to be the president of Florida A&M. And then you become mayor of town. Now, is Tallahassee home?
No, I'm originally from Miami-Dade.
Okay, you're from Miami. Okay.
So I grew up and born and raised in South Dade, an area called Richmond Heights.
Okay.
And then finished high school in Gainesville, Florida.
Okay.
One of 7 kids, all boys, 1 girl. My baby sister, I'm number 5. The first to graduate from high school, the first to graduate from college.
Wow.
To have my younger brother and sister come behind me and do the same thing. Our family knows well what it means to see poverty interrupted at the hands of a good public education, which is why I'm a big advocate of putting the public back in the education system, which has been under assault in my state.
So unlike Kanye, you're aware that the conditions we're dealing with, we're not a choice.
It's too soon to talk about.
You can't even do
Kanye.
It's too early in the morning.
No, I'm still processing the level of ignorance.
Woo.
I mean, it is shocking. I mean, and the fact that I looked at the interview, he was indignant about 400. How can in 400 years? That sounds like a choice. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
There's a lot of books I need to send this brother. If he's not a reader, there are plenty of movies that well document.
But honestly,
it's very disappointing.
But honestly too, Andrew, and I've been saying this as well. I see more and more people who are given that kind of exposure. Even some of these commentators on cable, who have not read anything.
That's a problem.
Literally have not read a thing. And because, unfortunately, television is this mass medium where when you see people on TV, there's an automatic assumption just because they're on set that they're smart. And then they get invited all over the world to speak. And I'm looking like, but y'all ain't read nothing.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, no context whatsoever. So, folk, and as well, I mean, you were fortunate enough to go to an HBCU. Yeah. And that's why HBCUs are valuable. You get some type of idea, but then it's not only what you read when you're on campus, but what you read on your own time.
Absolutely.
What we read. Everybody will drop what they're doing and just automatic reading today should be the autobiography of Malcolm X. Just stop.
That's one way.
That's the one book where you learn you need to read yourself to understand the truth.
Yeah. Let me tell you, you said about the power of HBCUs, and I know for a fact that I would not be here today, not as the mayor of Florida's capital city, and certainly not with the audacity to run for governor, were it not for the presence of Florida A&M University. But beyond FAMU, HBCUs really do help to introduce us to who we are, our history, the richness of it, the real richness of it, right? The stuff that we're not learning oftentimes in the traditional classroom setting, that HBCUs in the first semester have required courses around Black history, and they break it up into periods, right? I mean, you're not even like the way we typically learn Black history is over the course of a month, and it almost always centers around the civil rights movement exclusively,
right. And a couple of people, within that context. But we're talking about back to Africa before the transatlantic slave trade, right? Yes, sir.
And so many of us only get to see ourselves reflected in the sense of the slave trade and not prior to that point in the collected history of us. I'll never forget my freshman year having to read Carter G. Woodson, The Miseducation of the Negro. And there was a phrase in it that I'll never, ever forget. And it said, when you control a man's thinking, you don't have to worry about his actions. You don't have to tell him to go here or to stand there. He'll go there naturally because his education makes it necessary. And it's a little bit about, not to harp on Kanye, but listen, when you are trapped, he thinks he's free. And his comments yesterday make it very, very clear that he's not free at all. And not woke, not awoken, not even sleepwalking.
Sunk in place.
It very much so. Very much so. That it's really fundamental and important for us to understand and have a better grasp of our history and of our education. Because when you are miseducated, you're right. People don't have to tell you to go here and there.
That's right.
And stand there and what your proper place is.
You will seek the back door.
Absolutely.
You will go straight to it.
Absolutely.
Andrew Gillum with us, folks. You mentioned the audacity to run for governor. Yeah, that's no joke. Because I'm gonna tell y'all, Florida is. A lot of people think of Florida as beaches and all this. Florida's still the South, y'all. Lord have mercy. So. Talk about that audacity, brother. I mean, jumping up and doing that—that's no small thing.
Well, I mean, I'm elected mayor in the northernmost city in the state of Florida, in Tallahassee, Florida. My house is literally 30 minutes from the Georgia border. All across the Panhandle, we're referred to as Lower Alabama. lower Georgia,
Lord.
and affectionately, the South. And when we hear that, it's largely as a pejorative, not necessarily as a compliment to our hospitality. And I ran in a city for a citywide seat that the constituency was nearly 70% white. I ran in a four-way race and won that seat with 76% of the vote. There is a way to be competitive there. There is a way to win, and I haven't had to sacrifice my belief system in order to do it, largely because voters aren't looking for perfection. They're not even looking to align with you on everything you believe. They just need to know you believe it and that you're there for authentic purpose and service. But Florida, as confusing as we can be, is also a state that went twice for Barack Obama, that went twice for Bill Clinton, that arguably went for Al Gore, say, for a 5-4 Supreme Court decision, right?
It did.
And we went, most recently once for Donald Trump by 1%. The Democrats in my state have lost the race for governor these last two cycles by less than 1 point, fewer than 70,000 votes in a state of 20 million people. There are more Democrats in Florida than there are Republicans. There are more independents who align with the Democratic Party than there are independents who align with the Republican Party. Our problem is that we keep putting up milquetoast candidates who are running Republican light, where our voters literally are not able to discern between what the Republicans are saying and what the Democrats are saying. We had a nominee for governor when President Obama came into the state to campaign for that candidate. That candidate was out of the building in the arena before he ever took the stage because they were afraid of the association.
Who was
right?
that? That was
Alex Sink. I hate to name names.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah, I remember.
Those are great offenses. I think we can run and win in Florida based off our belief system. There's no doubt that there are parts of our state that are that are not going to come easy to us. But we have to be willing to go there anyway, not to convince a diminishing part of the electorate and an increasingly resistant part of the electorate to our message to vote for us, but because there are voters who agree with us in those places. And we can't write off the Northern Panhandle. That is a whole lot of black people are across the Northern Panhandle of Florida, from Escambia over to Duval County, who have never seen the Democratic nominee for governor, don't know who they are and don't know what they believe. And so I've been to those places.
What kind of numbers are those? I mean,
take Duval County
to make a difference?
Very much so. I mean, when you're talking about a race for governor that is won and lost by 70,000 votes, there were at least that many in between Gadsden County and Leon County.
Okay.
And then you go over to Duval County, which, got consolidated, 40 or so years ago, largely because of the growth of the black population in the urban core, which would have been the majority of the city of Jacksonville. And the city's founders, not really their founders, but the poobahs of the city, saw what was happening. And so they ended up taking in all of the rural area around it, consolidating Jacksonville into Jacksonville-Duval County, and therefore diminishing and snuffing out any real hope that African Americans would become the majority in that area. That being said, they are in significant numbers. And my critique of the Democratic Party in my state is that we've treated the race for governor as if it's the Electoral College. Camp out in one county or three of the bottom counties and, pray like heck for the rest. And really don't go there. And we lose these areas, and we lose them badly. My point is, we may not win them, but we got to lose them less.
And be competitive.
Absolutely.
In that regard.
Absolutely.
You've got, 3 other primary opponents?
Yeah, there are 4 of us total in the race. I'm the only non-millionaire on the Democratic side running for governor.
Is that right?
Only one. And my whole point has been, you shouldn't have to be from a famous family or be able to write your own check to become governor of Florida.
Yeah.
You ought to be able to, off the strength of your talent and ideas and convictions for the state, be able to run.
What are and I appreciate that, Matthew. That's another point, folks, in terms of reading and understanding. This is still about math.
Absolutely.
And if those are the numbers, you can win.
Oh, for sure.
And then at the same time, and Jesse taught us this: register mathematically the difference. That's missing in order to win. You're
completely.
Doing that as well.
I mean, that look, I don't have time for a fool's errand.
Right.
We're in this race because the math is there to win, to make it happen. And in the Democratic primary, of the 4 of us running, black voters are going to be potentially 30 to 32% of the vote off of GP, right? And so in a four-way race, you're talking about a nominee where there are not runoffs.
Yeah.
A nominee who could emerge with 25% plus one vote and win.
That's good math.
It's great math.
That's real good math.
It's great math.
So as you're campaigning, what are some of the issues that Floridians are most concerned about?
I tell you right now, top of mind for voters in our state are education, largely because these last 20 years that Republicans have been in control, they continuously have taking money away from the public system to stand up these for-profit charter schools. Despite the fact that 90% of our kids are still being educated through the traditional system, the starting salary for teachers in my state are in the bottom 10% of starting salaries of the 50 states. I ran into a teacher the other week who had been in the profession now, approaching her 5th year. After taxes, takes home $24,000, right? Now, teaching used to be an honorable middle-class profession.
I'm telling you.
Right? Where you could, work one job as a teacher and not have to moonlight as a retail worker to be able to make
and you were revered and esteemed.
Absolutely. Well, not in my state. I mean,
not anywhere anymore, to be honest with you. That's the sad part about it.
It's true. And I think fundamentally it is that these folks really don't believe in the public system. I mean, for many of them, their constituents have already taken their kids out of the public system and put them into private schools. And now what they're trying to do is to align public money to make sure that those families are able to get have some of that money supplement the cost of their children's private education.
Yeah. Well, going back to what we were saying, it was a revered position. I mean, it was as important to be a teacher and as esteemed as being a doctor and a lawyer, and especially in our community. We went to the HBCUs. We'll get our teaching degrees, go and teach.
Yes.
But see, that's a part of it, Brown versus Board.
Yeah.
So if we're going to integrate public school systems, then the other side has to destroy the public school systems in retaliation. That's what they're still doing and trying to get black teachers out. So
it's on steroids in my state. I mean,
really?
It is on steroids. Not to mention this last legislative session, they moved to decertify the teachers unions. And so our teachers unions are right now in the state of Florida in a major campaign for a membership drive because they've got to have over 50% of them in order to retain their labor status.
Where they're striking all over the country. Are people talking about that in Florida?
Well, Florida's a right to work state. The conditions make it very, very difficult for teachers to strike. But that being said, they are hitting their numbers. They are surpassing their numbers in record time when it comes to organizing. So the gift that they gave us by attacking organized labor and teachers specifically is that they've awoken a sleeping giant there. And I think that that's going to be, frankly, part of the ingredient to helping flip Florida blue this year will be the momentum of our teachers and, quite frankly, the tragedy at Parkland and what that has inspired not only for the victims of mass shootings in our state, those kids at Parkland and at Pulse, but also the folks at Liberty City and in everyday neighborhoods and communities that are being ravaged and torn apart by everyday gun violence that goes untalked about. Nobody's talking about what the New Deal looks like for those communities that are, again, suffering at the hands of ubiquitous access to guns, but also the social conditions that exist there, poor education systems, underfunded systems, a horrible economy where folks are having to work 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet. In my state, nearly half the population, 46% of the people in the state of Florida, working folks, said that they cannot make ends meet at the end of the month. So the next priority for a governor needs to be, how do we transform our state's economy into one that works for more of the people who call our state home, including people who are not on a trajectory and a pathway to going to college. But what used to exist when I was matriculating through the Florida system was if you were not on a pathway to college, you were able to get access to woodwork, shop, mechanical, electrical, technical, all these kind of apprenticeship programs that gave you the skills that you needed, that when we graduated you, that you were moving into a job because you had a skill that you could monetize, go to work, and make a good living. And I'm not saying that we're having a throwback to the days of yore. I'm saying that there are jobs that exist largely in the tech sector, low tech and high tech, where we need to be training this generation of young people on those skills that they could walk into those jobs and make a good living for themselves.
No, absolutely. That's exactly what's absolutely necessary. We mentioned the black vote, the Latino vote.
Yes.
Where is that, and
Yeah.
where is that vote with you?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, the black vote will be anywhere, we believe, probably around the 32% range. The Latino vote, we expect to be about 14% of the vote, and the white vote will be about 48% of the vote. And what we've got to do is hold our own when it comes to the Latino vote in our state, which I feel confident in doing. I am the only candidate of color competing in the Democratic primary. There is a lot that brings our communities together: a strong family nexus, a real affection and respect for hard work, and a desire to want to do better. And unfortunately, our communities both have been ravaged and impacted under the leadership of Republicans, and I think we can do better. I think I'll get my fair share of that vote. We're certainly going to compete for it all over the state, and that's also to say that in the aftermath of the Puerto Rican tragedy, we've had now north of 280,000 Puerto Ricans resettle in Florida, largely across the I-4 corridor. And north of 80,000 of them re-registered in our state. They're U.S. citizens and are able to register and update their registration. So we just got to continue to be competitive there.
So you mentioned that you got independents.
Yes. Who unfortunately will not be able to vote in the primary.
That's right. It's not. So how many Democrats will actually end up voting?
We think between 1 million and 1.2 million.
Okay.
We typically hover around 880,000, but because this is a Democratic contested primary, which we have not had in some time, we expect that we'll be able to push those numbers up to north of 1 million.
Which
is kind of crazy in a state of 20 million people, by the way.
Yeah,
that 1 million people get to whittle this down.
Yeah, and that's a whole other thing in terms of getting people out to vote and getting people to realize the importance of our democracy and participating, especially in a place like Florida.
Yeah.
And I said this Saturday night when I spoke, Florida being ground zero.
Yeah.
In terms of voter suppression, we know what happened in 2000.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how we ended up where we were.
Yeah.
Endorsements.
Yeah. Well, I'm fortunate to have the support of a number of my elected official colleagues, to include the dean of the congressional delegation, Alcee Hastings.
Good. Okay.
Who was one of my first endorsers, Congresswoman Frederica Wilson,
who
gained notoriety this year by taking the president on and then being called everything but a child of God by him over Twitter. But she is an endorser and a supporter, and number of mayors, city councilmen, school board members all across the state, a number of progressive organizations nationally, Democracy for America, DFA.
Bernie.
We got Our Revolution's endorsement as well. Yesterday, we announced the endorsement of one of the largest indivisible chapters in the state of Florida out of the Tampa Bay region.
Good. Okay.
We won the endorsement there with over 80% of their members choosing me over the other candidates in the race.
Okay.
And part of the rationale for why they chose me is largely because of the fight that I've had with the NRA and the gun lobby, and the fact that we beat them in court after they drugged me through court for 2 years, all because I refused to repeal an ordinance in my city which simply said you cannot shoot guns in city parks. And in Florida, that was so radical a notion that the legislature enabled these groups to sue elected officials in our individual capacities. So for a vote that I cast as an elected official, the law in the state of Florida says that you can individually sue any elected official who votes to regulate guns. And in so doing, those individual elected officials cannot be represented by legal counsel from their government. So my city attorney could not represent me or help me procure legal counsel. I had to do that on my own. I was subject to a fine of $5,000, subject to removal from office at the discretion of the governor, and responsible for reimbursing the attorney's fees of the opposing party up to $100,000 had they won. That is still the law in the state of Florida. The good news is we beat them at the circuit court, we beat them at the appellate court, and we wanted to take it to the Supreme Court to have the law in and of itself declared unconstitutional. And now, because the court refused to consider that question at that time, I've joined with a coalition, if you will, of now 13 cities around the state of Florida to sue the state of Florida for this law and to ask a judge to determine its constitutionality.
Wow, that's something else.
Yeah,
you know, I've argued we'd solve police violence if police were no longer indemnified. We could sue individual police officers. That'd cure all of that.
Well,
but that's amazing that you all are put in that position.
Oh yeah, it's the only legislation in the state of Florida, so far as we are able to find that individually penalizes an elected official for their policy positions. Right? We differ on a lot of things, and I'm elected to have the ability to differ, but to be punished for that difference in public policy is a reach too far, in our opinion.
Yeah. Folks, big election in Florida. If it's not already made plain to you, I am endorsing Andrew Gillum.
We will take it. I'll get you a form.
And even though he's doing well on it, you still need some money, don't you?
We need money like nobody's business.
So we need you all to do the auto. I like that political tie that I'm going to start preaching that. Yeah. Those small dollar donations, a pledge, do that. $10, $20 a month. Every little bit helps. Florida's a big state. He's got to get on television. He's got to get out to vote. He's got to get people mobilized. He's got to register voters. AndrewGillum.com.
That's it, AndrewGillum.com.
I love this logo, too, with the panhandle and the G.
Yeah,
that's bad. My alma mater is actually Georgetown, so that's when I first looked at it. I said, that looked kind of like our G, but it's all good.
You can subscribe to that. We will apply whatever you want to it.
But no, this is very, very important. And frankly, no constituency has been more loyal to the Democratic Party than African Americans.
Without a doubt.
Candidates across the board. And so why not support candidates from that constituency that has been so loyal? So we're not just asking just black folk to vote for Andrew Gillum. We're asking everyone to vote for Andrew Gillum. And I would even dare say, this is me talking. This is not him or the campaign. These are my words. And I said this Saturday night. They gave this was the first Freedom Fund dinner where the honors were named after Rufus Brooks, who for many, many years he passed away recently. He was the Orange County president. First Rufus Brooks Awards. And I was saying how, but for the grace of God, and this is how we really deal with Kanye. Trayvon Martin could have been Rufus Brooks. Trayvon could have been an Andrew Gillum. Conversely, Andrew or Rufus Brooks could have very well have been a Trayvon. We just opened the Lynching Museum in Montgomery. So every opportunity we can to uplift someone else who can set an example and say and do positive things, we ought to really cherish that opportunity. As you can see, Andrew is a very articulate brother. He knows the issues. He knows his math. He's been fighting with the NRA. He's been doing a lot of positive things. So why not? Not to mention the fact, as he said, his whole milquetoast thing. What is the point of running?
Absolutely.
If you look like the Republican. And a lot of Democrats do that, over the years. I think people are finally getting away from that. But if there's no discernible difference, what's the point of even doing? You might as well just stay with what you got.
Totally agree.
So, for a brother like this who is, there is a clear and discernible difference, and who is reaching out, and I'm sure you're getting support from white voters.
Absolutely.
And that in of itself is exciting, to have a brother from Florida, to have a brother from an HBCU, to have a brother who's become the mayor. That's exciting in and of itself, and you need excitement to drive people to the polls. So
that's right. I think that's the only way we win, right? I think that in Florida, the only way we win is by getting our base of voters to turn out, right?
Yeah.
We have been in search of the Republican voter to choose us, and they have told us consecutively, now for 5 consecutive gubernatorial elections, that when they have a choice between the real Republican and the fake thing, they go with the real one every time, and our voters stay home. We can't be afraid of our own shadow. We got to be willing to say what it is that we believe in and give our voters a reason to go out and vote for something, not just against. And I warn Democrats from this microphone and at every opportunity I get that we are not going to win in my state and probably in many others by just going out saying Trump is bad.
You're right.
People know he's bad.
Yeah.
We litigated that in 2016. He is uniquely unqualified for the job that he holds. We know that, and we'll prosecute that case should he still be there in 2020. But as for now, we got to give our voters a reason to turn out and vote for something and not just against, right? And I'll put my credentials next to anybody running. I am the most qualified candidate in this Democratic primary, not because my 15 years of public policy making experience, but because of all the candidates running, my lived experience in the state of Florida, growing up to a mother who drove school buses and a daddy who worked construction, and the first to graduate in my family from high school. We know what it means not to just survive in our state, but what it means to thrive. And in my opinion, that kind of experience is valuable to have in the walls and in the halls and corridors of power and at the decision-making tables, because it matters who sits at that table. I was always taught, if you're not at the table, you're likely on the menu. And in Florida, it's time for us to get off the menu. We need our seat at the table. It's time for us to govern in the interest of everyday working folks, and we haven't had that in quite some time.
No, you're absolutely right. So, folks, we want to get behind this brother. Go to AndrewGillum.com. And get involved, see how you can help. And everybody knows somebody in Florida. See, the other thing that he's articulated too, as I was saying, a lot of us had this. We think about this whole vacation thing, but there's Florida behind the beaches.
Yes,
and that is what he is working to change and transform for everybody down there. What happened in Parkland, what happened in the Pulse, all of that is on the table. All of that is at stake.
Absolutely.
And so who better to take this on than Andrew Gillum? Please go to AndrewGillum.com. You can also go to the Collective PAC, a whole slate of candidates we're supporting. Now, I'm telling you, brother, I was down there, and I'm just talking to folk at the dinner and just regular folk, meeting people for the first time in Florida. They said, Mark, Andrew can win. People just were volunteering that to me before I even brought your name up. So, Mark, you know about Andrew? See, I know about him. You know, he can win. I said, really? And said, yeah, he can actually win this. And so that would be amazing to have the first black governor of Florida, to have a Democrat finally. Lord have mercy.
20 years.
Rick Scott, ooh.
Yes.
Folks, we need to make this happen. Please go to AndrewGillum.com. You're always welcome here, brother.
Thank you for that, man. I appreciate you
we've had Stacy on, we've had Ben Jealous on, and we're supporting all of them. We want to have you back
her
on.
Her election's coming up soon. So
that's right. It's coming up real soon.
And thoughts, prayers, and send resources.
We can do that too. We can do that. Support black women, trust black women, stand with black women. Brother, it's a pleasure. You know, we're talking about Tennessee State and Florida A&M. You know, when I moved, I went to Georgetown when I got to D.C., and people go to Howard. So of course I would go. My mom went to Howard and everything, so I'm still Howard bred. But I'm gonna tell y'all something. There's no black college football like that in the South.
I'm telling.
And when it was Tennessee State, Grambling, Southern, Bethune, all of those schools. And it was always a big deal. And, of course, the Rattlers at Florida A&M, high-stepping when those majors would come out. It was really great. So this is really sort of a great reminiscence for me. Brother, congratulations.
Hey, listen, my
and we're here. And if you need me to come down there and help you, we can do all of that. You know, we can. That's why I asked you about it. I know how to count. I tell people all the time, this is about counting.
Yes.
And I learned from one of the best when I was in Washington, D.C. So, folks, support Andrew Gillum, AndrewGillum.com. Go there this morning. When's the primary?
Primary is August 28th. August 28th.
Okay. So there's
and
a little
30
time.
days out, you get to begin voting early. We've got some time between now and then.
But it'll be here before you know it.
It'll be here, I'm telling you, man. And we're ripping up the road, trying to make sure we get out and be as many places as we can.
Yeah, well, I like what you're saying about going to those places that normally don't even get to see a gubernatorial candidate. That's critical. That's critical. All right, folks, AndrewGillum.com. Get it right on. And as I said, everybody knows somebody in Florida. Call your friends. Say, have you heard of Andrew Gillum? Do you know what he's doing? Help get the word out. Spread the word.
Tweet about it. Facebook about it. You heard us today. You like what you hear. Tag some folks and say, check them out.
Share this video, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, please. Share it with your friends. This brother has spoken for himself very well, and we're very, very proud of him. Thanks again, man. Good to see you, man. You're the man, Andrew Gillum. Folks, we'll take a break. We will come right back. Sirius XM Progress, 127 Resistance Radio. The Smollett family is going to join us in the last hour. Brittany's got Women's Wednesday as well. They've got a new cookbook out, so we've got a lot going on today. We'll take a quick break. 22 minutes before the hour. Sirius XM Progress, 127 Resistance Radio. Get woke, get ready for impeachment. This is MIP.